In many ways, Grimgor is a lord out of his time. He was designed in a different era. In Total War Warhammer 1, he's got kind of slow and clunky attack animations, slow and clunky speed. Here, trudging on foot with no mount options available. He's not very responsive. Does have decent weapon strength and attack, absolutely. Good charge bonus, certainly for an infantry lord. Okay, melee defense could be better, but also has some nice debuffs and other kind of heroic dueling abilities. But he's on foot, which means he rarely gets a chance to use them effectively because the enemy lord can usually just, move in the opposite direction, which Azazel here certainly can on the opposing side. But of course, the legendary Slaanesh, he cares not about such things. He's happy to use Grimgor in his intended purpose. We've got the 8-peak loons here, rank 9 black orcs, 2 of them getting whipped. Got some rusty airs, squig herd, some summoned spider hatchlings from the Ragnarok Queen, and a biggin rogue idol as well. And that's pretty much it. Very elite, very tall army, if you will. We've got on the Slaanesh side, Marauder Horsemen of Slaanesh, Azazel up in the sky, some Hellstriders, great for attacking enemy light cavalry in this matchup, with some heavies to back them up, Chaos Knights of Slaanesh, with lances, some infantry waiting back here. We've got warriors backed up by demonettes, including an exalted demonette there. So let's take a look at Slade as he advances. He's going to be continuously harassed by the Slaanesh forces. They're going to run some hit and run attacks, do some skirmishing with these Marauder Horsemen. So let's watch up close as the beautiful pink-crested Marauders with their Romanesque helmets looking fantastic. More Greek, to be honest, than Roman, but let's not get too hung up on the pedantics of that as Slade attempts to respond. Notice how he's going to kind of form up here in a way to protect the rusty airs, and then try and use them to respond to a degree. He's also using the spider hatchlings to respond, push them out into space. Of course, the poison means even though they're slower, slower technically than the Marauder Horsemen, if they do get some poison hits on their charge animation, they can potentially catch them. Hellstriders are going to respond and just crush the spiders, so nice back and forth on both sides. Slaanesh forces definitely getting some hit and run damage, but Black Orcs do actually get a little counter charge there, even though a lot of them are going to get bowled over. When they do stand up and get a couple attack animations, they'll still have a fairly substantial charge bonus active. I mean, 29 charge is fairly good for infantry, especially because it adds every model flat, right, to their melee attack, but more importantly, weapon strength. Hellstriders here are going to help charge in as well, get tangled up with some squigs, but Hellstriders are too squishy for this. They do not have the staying power to fight in this kind of engagement. They're going to get absolutely torn to shreds. Azazel also trying to run some hit and run on the caster. Does get some good damage on the Orc Shaman here, but going to throw a little lash there. Misplaced slightly, but still gets a nice melee attack buff for the Marauder Horsemen as they charge in. It is going to be responded to immediately by a Spider Hatchling and a little Brain Burst, which mostly just detonates his own Rusty Airs, but that's okay. Her Greenskins move, and Spider Hatchling's also going to run out and pursue once again. Black Orcs also got some damage on the Chaos Knights there and took some damage in return, but overall value trade probably about the same on both sides. I don't know, Slaanesh might be trading a little bit better due to the damage of the Rusty Airs, but they're also taking quite a bit on these Marauder Horsemen. Hellstriders, so not cheap units by any means. So, yeah, it does look like a lot of the Spiderling summons have been used as well, which is fine. Let's take a look here actually at the number of charges. There's still 2 charges remaining, so Slade primarily is just use those Spiderlings to, again, kind of counteract the mobility here. That side charge was okay, but Slade actually got a counter charge at the last second, which means the Knights kind of charged into a braced, well, not necessarily braced, but a column, right? A very dense column of Black Orcs. Didn't really bowl that many of them over and actually took some hits. That was a relatively ineffective charge right there. But Zazel continuing to harass here with some magics. The Greenskins trying to catch him with a Spiderling summon. Unfortunately, he can just path straight through them as he's being pushed by the Queen, but might struggle to get back up in the air and certainly is going to take some damage during this time. Of course, the Biggin can always open up with its artillery shots on those warriors and demonettes, so it does look like they're going to finally close in. The Slaanesh player having had enough of this sort of hit-and-run phase, although they are going to continue to hit-and-run somewhat as the rest of the infantry advances. But Slade with a nice catch of Azazel here, going to be able to do quite a bit of free damage to him. Let's kind of keep that in the foreground as we take a look at the rest of this. Yeah. Knights of Slaanesh continuing to get some charges in here, more mobility lining up. But Slade just doing a reasonably decent job of keeping his forces together. Right now he's a little bit spread apart, which might potentially be dangerous, but Azazel, again, taking free hits from the Ragnarok Queen is going to be fantastic. The Queen's probably getting some nice value right now, almost up to 1,000. Plus all the summons, which, again, probably not a lot of value individually on them. Tactically, though, just being able to hold off these fast attack units for Slaanesh from doing too much harass as he advanced definitely has been helpful. When you're in a build that's vulnerable to kiting, having the Ragnarok Queen to kind of supplement your light cavalry numbers, or just in general, I mean, as far as Regiment of Renown abilities go, this is probably one of the strongest. I mean, summons generally tend to be very good, land battles especially. So I would probably say the Queen is one of the best Regiments of Renown in the game, based off of that, even though you don't see it a ton these days. It's a little bit expensive as a combatant, could probably stand to be a little bit better. That just goes for Ragnaroks in general, but yeah, we see another Spiderling summon here, just getting crushed by the Knights. Absolutely painful. But still, looks like Biggins gonna form up. 8-peak loons get a little bit caught out of position, are probably gonna get caught and killed by Demonettes there, but probably did unleash some Fanatics. I see some damage on those Demonettes as well, so won't be worth it in the long run, but there's something. Little Brain Burster there also, trying to damage those Demonettes as they advance. It's my cat coughs up a hairball in the background. I apologize about that. Hopefully it's not too loud. Hopefully you can't hear that. I promise she's fine. But the Orc Shaman, on the other hand, is not fine. He is getting terror-routed here by Azazel, who himself gets ping-ponged in between the Rogue Idol and the Queen. Grimgore also closing, so single entity fight 3v1. This is going to be pretty bad. Thankfully for Azazel, his own infantry closes just in time, and he's able to kind of squeeze out around the side here. Real nice lash right through the center of those Black Orcs. Going to juice up his warriors and Demonettes as they charge in. The warriors will mostly just be tanking here, but the Demonettes, especially if they're able to get us around, will actually do some pretty decent damage to these big armored monsters, and to Grimgore himself. But pulling Hammer and Anvil into just Spiderlings, that's great. Actually, I don't know if the Knights had a charge order there, but the Black Orcs are tough. They have more health than a lot of cavalry units on a per model basis, and there's a lot more models of them, obviously, so they can definitely stand up to take some punishment here, which they are definitely going to. One unit manages to mostly sort of stay out of the big melee blob, but the chevrons here are particularly important. Black Orcs don't have very good melee defense to begin with, so getting that up to 39 does help substantially. You're going to decrease the hit chance. It's not going to help, you know, when you're so surrounded quite like this, but just see how long these Black Orcs have survived. It's quite surprising. Wah being popped finally as well as the Greenskins are able to charge that up. Going to give a nice temporary boost to all of their units, obviously. Rogue Idol and Grimgore have a lot of armored infantry to get through, and the Ragnarok Queen, obviously, as the other Black Orc kind of gets singled out here and destroyed. Yeah, some dank value here, but still not enough to pay for themselves, obviously. It's going to have to be up to Grimgore and the Idol and everything else to carry it, so this battle has been going for quite some time. Let's fast forward a little bit through this melee blob grind here. As the single entities for the Greenskins, they're quite tough. Surprisingly, Slaanesh, I mean, maybe not so surprisingly, a lot of their units here are actually just kind of defensive infantry who aren't going to be outputting that impressive of DPS. Really, as far as the DPS goes, it's primarily coming from, again, the Demonettes, Azazel himself when he chooses to charge in, but he's going to have to be very careful about not getting killed here. And this will take some time, so let's actually, you know, go cinematic fast forward. There we go. New tech unlocked. As the Rogue Idol bounces around. You know, Rogue Idol in fast forward almost looks like normal speed units, which is one of the reasons why the Rogue Idol is actually not the best. Can be good in a lot of matchups. This is definitely one where Slaanesh really lacks the tools to punish large armored monsters effectively. I mean, they can definitely do some things, but eventually the Ragnarok Queen does get routed off here. Not before amassing over 2,000 value on its own, plus the summons. Very impressive stuff in that melee blob grind. But now Azazel is faced with a tough decision, which is you go for the Rogue Idol, which has like 900 weapon strength, now 1100, or do you go for Grimgore? And more than that, the Rogue Idol being now enraged, out of control, does mean, yeah, it's 1,000 weapon strength, but it's not going to be able to be microed at all. So let's see how this goes here. Grimgore has a good amount of HP left, about half of his HP, almost 4,000. As the Queen gets chased off. Black Orc's also still hanging around somehow. But a lot of the Slaanesh units are starting to run out of steam. All these warriors have just been pounded into a fine paste by the big idol. And Grimgore also getting some good damage. This is, again, dangerous situation. The Demonettes are the ones actually slapping Grimgore here, poking in the gaps of his armor. Generally doing damage to him, especially in a surround. And they have fast attack animations. They're going to be outputting good, constant DPS, whereas Grimgore is pretty slow. He's going to come over here and chop some of these cavalry. But this is actually smart to kind of saturate himself in the cavalry because they're substantially less dangerous. They're going to take up sort of space around him, if you will, like base space. Think about like tabletop models with their little bases, right? Only so many can be surrounding him at the same time, and if some of those are horsemen, then it's going to be less demonettes. So actually pretty beneficial there as Azazel. He's got your next popped on him. I don't know if he realizes, but it is going to wear off fairly quickly. But those quick hit and run attacks can be very good with Azazel, but if you're just barely off on your timing, like there, he showed his back momentarily. Grimgore gets 1 or 2 attacks into his back. Boom! Big hit right there. And that's actually enough to fell Azazel. That's the finishing blow right there. So with Azazel going down, that is going to be immediate leadership issues for, yeah. For Slaanesh. Demonettes start to crumble, warriors start to rout. Let's see. Grimgore is also on the verge of routing here, though. And the Knights of Slaanesh. Ooh, yeah, we're going to see something here. Fascination on Grimgore. Okay, and it's a draw. I don't know. Does this something a little like desync? Did someone... I wasn't paying close attention to the timer. The timer didn't expire, did it? Or did Grimgore shatter? And I don't know. I don't understand what happened there. I think the replay might have actually desynced in terms of the result. But, yeah, because it seems like Slade maybe had the game there. But I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to the timer. Maybe it did fully go to 20 minutes. I have to go back and check the instant replay on that. Yeah, after consulting the instant replay, I honestly have no idea what happened there. Maybe Slade can shed some light in the comments down below if that was maybe a desynced outcome, if there was a different outcome. It seemed like he was in the driver's seat to actually win that right there, but regardless, very impressive values across the board for the single entities, other than the caster. But for Grimgore himself, 2,000 value, 12,000 damage dealt, 127 kills, and just absolutely tanking and besting Azazel. Very impressive stuff. The Rogue Idol also 25, 54, 23,000 damage dealt. Basically just cleared out all of this Chaos Infantry, which is not like pushover infantry. Those are legit Chaos Warriors. So very impressive stuff. Ragnarok Spider also 2196, 11,000 damage dealt, plus the summons. Incredible value there. Black Orcs, one of them actually does pay for themselves. 1501, 10,000 damage dealt. Just very impressive across the board for the elites, for the Greenskins. The auxiliaries all paid the price for it, but that's okay. It's kind of how this build is intended to be used, I guess. On the Slaanesh side, yeah, you can see here my point being made very clearly about them lacking tools to punish large armored monsters, in many ways relying on their just raw kind of AP DPS units, like Demonettes, Exalted Demonettes being probably the best of that kind of class. Like, regular Demonettes are a little bit too squishy and weak. They tended to just die too fast, although these ones did get really good value as well, so maybe them in numbers would actually be better cost-effective value here. I'm not sure. The Warriors are an interesting choice, but I think you need to mix up a little bit more DPS versus tank. Maybe go like a mix of half and half, not sure. The Hellstriders also did a pretty decent job kind of skirmishing along with the Marauder Horsemen. The Chaos Knights also did okay. It'd be better to just have swords here, but that's a point for another day. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know I certainly did. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, y'all be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.